My name is Erin Colburn. I'm the Pre-Health Advising Coordinator for the College of Health Sciences at Boise State University. I'm excited to share with you some really great information from the University of Idaho Masters of Science Dietetic program. We have Hydee Becker, who is a registered dietitian, and Kendi Smith, who is a recent graduate of the University of Idaho. And take it away.
All right, well, thank you, Erin. We're so pleased to be here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and then we'll have some more brief introductions. Let's see. Is it sharing? Which screen can you see? Here you go.
PowerPoint, yep.
Okay, great. Well, as Erin said, I'm Hydee Becker, and I'm the Director of Dietetics here at the University of Idaho.
And I'm Kendi Smith. I am a recent graduate of the University of Idaho's Coordinated Program in Dietetics, and also a Boise State alumni.
And today we're going to talk about Moscow, about the University of Idaho, about our School of Family and Consumer Sciences, where our Master of Science in Dietetics is housed. And we'll also talk about applying to the Master of Science in Dietetics.
So Moscow is one of the cutest little towns in Idaho. It rhymes with let's go and has a population of about 25,000 people. It's located in northern Idaho. It's on the border of Washington. It's just a quick 15-minute drive into Pullman, which is the neighboring city in Washington. And then it's also about 90 miles from Spokane, Washington. One of my favorite things about Moscow is they have one of the best farmers markets I've ever seen. It runs from about May through October, and you've got tons of local fresh produce, cute vendors, and a variety of different ethnic food options. I think one of the food vendors offers Egyptian food, which was a very unique experience. There's also a variety of different coffee shops, ice cream shops, restaurants, and just really there's something for everyone who wants to come to Moscow. If you want a toy store, they have a toy store.
All right. And at the University of Idaho, it is such a beautiful campus, and we'll show you a tour of it, an aerial tour of it next. But basically, it's a very small residential university. So on campus, we have about 10,000 students. We've been voted #1 best value public universities in the West. I think the highlights of campus are that we have this really amazing recreation center. So it's quite large, and right when you walk in, you can see the climbing wall. There's lots of weightlifting equipment, there's basketball courts, and then also outside of the recreation center is the outdoor program. So you're able to rent equipment if you love to ski, kayak, whatever it is, you can get it there. We have a new student union building, which has a food court. Most popular is Chick-fil-A. There's a huge library with lots of resources. One thing that students have found unique is the mill. So it's like a maker space is there. We have this arboretum. We have two arboretums, actually, the old arboretum and the new arboretum. The new arboretum is just outside of our Nichols building, and it's a beautiful place to just take a little break, and you can kind of loop through in about 30 minutes. We have our Kendi Dome where we play football, and our new ICCU arena where we'll play basketball. We have an amazing marching band. So if you love to play in the band, you would find great joy in being part of the Vandal Marching Band. All right. The school that the Masters of Science in Dietetics is located in is the School of Family and Consumer Sciences, which is formerly Home Economics. Um, in home economics that it was historically food and nutrition, child development, and apparel and textiles. So our building is a historic building built in the 1950s. It has quite a lot of character. Currently, we have 211 students in the School of Family and Consumer Sciences, both undergrads and graduates, studying food and nutrition, nutritional sciences, dietetics, child development and early childhood education, human development and family studies, and apparel, textiles, and design. So we have a beautifully newly renovated foods laboratory where students in food and nutrition and dietetics spend a lot of their time. We have a Ramsey research unit, which is a flex space, so it houses a student lounge. Our faculty are very friendly, and we have a professional academic advisor, Trevor White.
So why should you choose the University of Idaho Dietetics program? Well, for one, I found that the U of I and this program is very academically strong, and there is a variety of academic opportunities offered throughout the university. Once you finish the program, you're immediately eligible to sit for the credentialing exam. So that was a huge plus for me. You're also completing your experiential learning concurrent with the coursework. So as you're learning the topics and ideas, you're able to turn around and directly apply them into real world scenarios. And I feel that it really just helps the information stick. And then, at least for me, I had the an opportunity to return to Boise for the final experiential learning. So I was able to come home and be with my family while also continuing the program, and that was a definite plus. And then the campus is just absolutely beautiful. So just being able to walk around and just feel like you're immersed in another world almost is kind of a unique experience. So I really did enjoy that as well.
So our Master's of Science in Dietetics, it's a full-time 2-year program that includes 59 academic credits and at least 1,000 hours of supervised experiential learning that we organize for students. We are accredited for 18 students each fall. And it's a non-thesis option, and it ends in a comprehensive exam at the end. Also, the first 3 semesters are in Moscow, and the final semester could be in Moscow and the surrounding area, Boise and surrounding area, or Coeur d'Alene and the surrounding area. And as Kendi mentioned, at the end of the program, you're immediately eligible to sit for the credentialing exam to become a registered dietitian nutritionist. So we have faculty and affiliate faculty who are in main areas of practice, such as clinical dietetics, community nutrition, and food and nutrition management. So this is a great program if you want to make a difference as a community nutritionist, working with university extension or other government-funded programs like WIC, Head Start, child nutrition programs, or senior nutrition programs. Or if you'd like to be a clinical dietitian in an acute or ambulatory care setting, or if you'd like to be a manager working maybe in food service as a manager or a director, or as a clinician as a clinical manager.
So it's 2 years. In the first year, that's where you're going to get a lot of the introductory skills and information. So that first semester, you're doing things like quantity food production and the associated lab. You're learning helping skills as they relate to dietetics, nutrition in the life cycle. You'll have a graduate seminar, and then you're also going to learn the professional skills that come with being a dietetics professional. And this is really just an overview of everything you need to know. And then the second semester in the spring, it just kind of compounds and builds upon that. So you're getting your nutrition education, intro to clinical dietetics and the lab, community nutrition. There's also a research and statistics class that you'll be taking, and then an optional summer semester. Your second year is really where a lot of the hands-on skills start happening, though you are doing more hands-on in the first year. So you're getting your management and leadership experience. You're really getting the bulk of your medical nutrition therapy and disease information. You're applying your skills in a community nutrition setting, and then as well as your graduate seminar. And then the very last semester is where it gets down to the nitty-gritty. You're going to be in the field working 40 hours a week doing your food and nutrition management experience, and then your clinical dietetics experience as well.
And I'm seeing a typo. So year 2 in spring, this could be in Moscow, Boise, Coeur d'Alene, or surrounding areas.
So some of the supervised experiential learning experiences are very exciting, I'll say that. So for this experience, we were tasked with creating a holiday recipe, and then you present your recipe to a panel of judges. I want to say we had between 15 to 30 judges, so it's quite a big deal. Not only that, but the winning recipe gets showcased in a holiday newsletter. So I think you can imagine that we were all very competitive. So with this project, you're given a theme and then a specific ingredient that you have to incorporate into your recipe. So the theme was something about coming home to Moscow. And then we had to use beef that was produced from the U of I butcher. They have their own Vandal Meats brand. So we were all given meat from U of I. So with our project, we created a steak roulade, and then we called it steak roulade with Vandalaise sauce. It had a date, walnut, Tennessee honey, whiskey, and caramelized onion mixture that we kind of put inside the steak roll. And then it's a tangy béarnaise sauce. So the two flavors kind of really balanced each other out. And our whole idea behind it was that the béarnaise sauce kind of mimicked the beautiful golden rolling hills of Moscow, and it just kind of signified coming home. But anyways, it's just a fun experience, and you're gonna showcase your culinary abilities. This second experience was the theme meal, and that is actually a picture of me on the left. Just you get really into it. So we had to create a theme meal for about 30 people. And so that incorporates an appetizer, a main course, a dessert, as well as activities spread out throughout the entire hour-long experience. We had a Bob Ross theme, hence the wigs. And so we called it Happy Little Accidents. And it was just a fun, happy environment where we got to showcase our food production abilities, as well as getting experience for the theme meal that we had to do during our experiential learning in the last semester. My favorite part of that experience was probably the paint cookies. If you see them down on the bottom, we made the cookies, and then on the palette cookie, that's just little M&Ms, and you would dip your paintbrush in water, and then you could use the dye from the M&M to paint on the palette cookie. So it was fun, it was edible, and just a good experience. So that is something that you could and you should expect to do if you're a part of this program.
Right. So our professors do an excellent job trying to incorporate experiential learning into the classroom when students are in the classroom setting. But aside from that, we have our supervised experiential learning, applied community nutrition, applied clinical dietetics, and applied food and nutrition management. And as Kendi mentioned, those happen in the third and fourth semesters of the program. So for community nutrition, we have that as an optional summer between year 1 and year 2. For example, if you're wanting to live at home with your parents in the summer, or just move back to your community, or you could do it during the fall of the second year. So we scheduled this for 240 hours, about 16 hours a week for the entire semester, or 40 hours a week for 6 weeks if it were in the summer. And we have contracts with locations in and around Moscow, Boise, and Coeur d'Alene, with experienced preceptors. I guess of most interest might be the facilities that we're contracted with in the Boise area. So we work closely with Southwest District Health WIC, Eat Smart Idaho, University of Idaho Extension, Idaho Food Bank, Dairy West, Nampa School District, and West Ada School District. And then for applied clinical dietetics, which is the last semester, it's full-time, 40 hours a week for 8 weeks for a total of 320 hours. Again, we have locations near and around Moscow, Boise, and Coeur d'Alene. They are in the acute care setting. We feel that this best prepares students to sit for their credentialing exam. So in Boise, we work with St. Luke's and St. Alphonsus that have, as you know, locations in the Boise area. And then for the supervised experiential learning for applied food and nutrition management, again, it's 40 hours a week for 8 weeks, or 320 hours. We have locations near Moscow, Boise, and Coeur d'Alene. And these are either continuing in the acute care setting or the hospital setting. So if a student did their clinical dietetics experience, let's say at St. Alphonsus, they might be able to stay for their management. Or if they would prefer, they can go to an alternate setting, which would be the school district. So again, in the Boise area, for food and nutrition management, we have students placed at St. Alphonsus, Nampa School District, West Ada School District, and the Idaho Department of Corrections. And then we have additional opportunities in addition to the prescribed curriculum for the Masters of Science in Dietetics. Students are able to take sports nutrition, GI, physiology, and immunology, principles of sustainability, global nutrition, global ag and life sciences systems, which has a spring break trip to a variety of locations, depending on where you choose: Spain, Mexico, Taiwan, China, Ireland. And then we have comparative health systems, which is facilitated by Professor Helen Brown, where she takes a summer international trip just for like 10 days. This summer, they're going to London. In the past, they've gone to Nicaragua. And then there are a number of volunteer research opportunities. So although our program is a non-thesis option, students are often interested in conducting research with faculty. So if that was of interest to you, that could be possible. So Dr. Yimin Chen studies the benefits of human milk in the preterm infant. Dr. Shelley McGuire is an international renowned researcher of human milk. Dr. Ginny Lane studies food security and nutritional risks among vulnerable populations. And then Dr. Annie Rowe studies nutrition and cognition. And throughout the program, you'll acquire many useful subscriptions and textbooks, study guides, etc., that will prepare you to take the credentialing exam and also help you as you transition into the workforce. So for example, you'll use NutriCalc plus dietary analysis, the nutrition care manual, the nutrition care process terminology, the pocket guide to nutrition assessment, et cetera, et cetera.
So I really don't think that this little graphic actually does justice what a real day in the life of a dietetics student is like, but I think it gives you a kind of brief overview. This is a very generalized day that I would go through. So I would probably start getting ready, waking up around 6:30 to 7:30 a.m., eating breakfast, that kind of thing. School would start at about 8 to 8:30 and run until about 4 to 4:30. And then after that, you would take time to either exercise, do any extracurricular activities or research. I did partake in the AHEC Scholars Program, which we'll kind of touch on shortly. So that was one thing that I did, extracurricular activities. And then in the evenings, I would do dinner, homework, study, and then probably pass out by 11:30. And then just start the process all over again. And like I said, it really doesn't do it justice, but I would usually break everything down into hour by hour increments. And that helped me really stay on top of what I need to do when I need to do it. And that worked for me. Weekends were a little bit more relaxed, but I would still probably spend at least 4 to 6 hours studying and just trying to get on top of everything else that I may have neglected during the week, you know, like chores and grocery shopping and that kind of thing. But while this shows a very packed schedule, I was still able to make time with friends and just go study at a coffee shop or go to their house, have dinner and study. So it's not that you can't still have fun. You're just going to be doing a lot of schoolwork, homework, and studying to stay on top of everything. It's kind of like standing in front of a fire hydrant and just getting hit with so much information. You try and take in as much as you can, and then you just power through.
Right. It's a very intense program. So now I'll talk about the cost. So basically, this is just information that I took from the website about the cost of attendance. But basically, full-time student fees and tuition is about $10,000 a year for just fees and tuition. And then on top of that, of course, you would have costs for housing and meals and books and supplies. But there are some funding opportunities. So for our Master of Science in Dietetics, we are part of the Western Regional Graduate Program. So this allows students in the WICHE states to just pay in-state tuition. We have non-competitive scholarships in family and consumer sciences. So we have a very large endowment, the Mary Hall Nichols Scholarship. So every student will get $1,500 a year. That just is automatically awarded. In addition to that, we have the Shirley Newcomb Scholarship. So one student gets awarded this by the scholarship committee, about $3,500 a year, preference going towards a working mother. Castle Scholarship, again, this just gets automatically awarded to one student regarding their high academic achievement for $2,500. And then the Ralph Scholarship is about $200 a year regarding financial need that might buy one textbook. So those are things you wouldn't apply for. They would just get automatically awarded. And then there are some competitive funding opportunities. So we have a Vandal Health Education program here on campus, and they provide well-being to students. And so they do offer a graduate assistantship. So in exchange for working about 20 hours a week through Vandal Health Ed, you would get tuition fees and a monthly stipend. Our Vandal Athletics, we have a fueling station here. So if you're interested in sports nutrition, they provide out-of-state tuition waivers. Or just tuition waiver, but it could go to someone in-state or out-of-state in exchange for working at the fueling station. Again, that would be about 20 hours a week. And then we have the AHEC Scholars Program, It changes every year, the amount of money that's awarded, but this year, students who made the commitment got $800 for their 2-year commitment.
So the AHEC Scholars Program, I actually applied for it during my first semester. It is a great program that just brings together students from a ton of different health disciplines. It emphasizes a team-based approach to addressing health disparities. So you'll engage with a group of about 15 peers from multiple health profession fields. So dietetics was one. We had a good chunk of medical students. There were athletic training students, and then I believe nursing students that came up from the Lewis and Clark College in Lewiston. So while you're going through the program, if you choose to do this, what you're learning actively complements your degree in dietetics. I can't tell you how many times I would learn something and then be able to apply that directly into a classroom or an experiential setting. And it really helped make kind of real world ideas stick versus just reading everything in a book. By the end of the 2-year program, you'll earn a nationally recognized certificate. I actually have mine right next to me, but and then like Hydee mentioned, you get an $800 stipend for your 2-year commitment. Besides learning with a group of peers, I think you're going to make a lot of long-term relationships and just have a great safe space to grow and learn and then interact with other health professions. I can't tell you how many times the dietetics students would say something and then the medical students or any of the other students would be like, oh, that's a great perspective. I didn't even think about that. And also some of them were very eager and excited to learn more about nutrition. And they even recognized that there was a hole in their education regarding nutrition. So it just kind of showed them that we have a place in the medical field. And I think it just all it opened all of our eyes to the possibilities.
All right, so you can apply to our Masters of Science in Dietetics if you've completed a bachelor's degree in any subject and have completed the prerequisites. And the prerequisites are generally biology, chemistry, biochemistry, microbiology, foods and nutrition, some basic courses like that. Or you can apply if you're an undergraduate student at the University of Idaho majoring in food and nutrition. We have a 3+2 program. So that means if you're studying food and nutrition at the University of Idaho and you're a junior, then you can apply for the Masters of Science in Dietetics. In that following year, you would be considered primarily a graduate student, meaning you would pay graduate student tuition, and then secondarily an undergraduate student. So your 4th year or your senior year, you would finish your degree in food and nutrition, and then you would be completing the same time the first year of the Masters of Science in Dietetics. You actually graduate in May and get that diploma. And then the following year, you would complete your 2nd year of the Masters of Science in Dietetics and graduate again and get that diploma. And I understand that students at Boise State University might typically be students there for 2 years and then transfer to the University of Idaho for their 3rd and 4th year, but there are options here. And then everyone applies by February 1st. So it's kind of a open rolling admission, but you apply by February 1st to start the following fall semester. And we start the last week in August. And you apply through College of Graduate Admissions. And it's very standard. There's about a $60 application fee. You upload transcripts, 3 letters of recommendation, a resume, a personal statement, and then we have interviews in February, and then the class is selected in March. And then for more information about prerequisites and anything else about the Masters of Science in Dietetics, I would direct you to our page, our homepage. And with that, we'd like to say thank you for your attention, and we're able to answer any questions you might have.
Great. Shannon, do you have any questions for Hydee or for Kenzie? Kendi.
Kendi.
Sorry, Kendi.
First, if I would like to see these Bob, did you win that competition by chance?
Oh, I don't know. There was so many. Someone else had a Mario Party themed theme meal, so I think they would have won. I don't remember, but the Bob Ross wig was pretty great.
Yeah, so that is pretty amazing.
I loved the cookies. Those were cool.
Yeah, I
If
know
I
I
could
could
like
actually in our
paint with
office.
them, that's like almost like you just gave me like a vibrant, like beautiful idea for like a birthday party. So
Yep. That's essentially what it was. We had multiple adult birthday parties is what it felt like.
That is really cool. So I'm wondering, so what does it look like? So if a student gets their bachelor's degree and then applies to this program, what does it look like for them? Do they just need to do?
Yeah, so if a student, would stay at Boise State and complete their bachelor's degree and then apply, it looks like for them, unless they've thought ahead, a year or two in advance to applying or to completing their bachelor's degree, they might have to take about a year to do the prereqs. So it kind of depends. I know I have a student who's going to be applying for next year who has a bachelor's degree in mathematics. And so he completed his bachelor's degree and then he sort of discovered dietetics, which I think is not uncommon, and said, oh, wow, this is what I want to do. Help me figure out how to complete the prereqs to apply. So we did that. It took him about a year, basically.
Okay. Because I know part of our pathway, we have them complete the prereqs, but I didn't know if there was any extra prerequisites that are needed that are like a nutrition or anything like that.
I believe so. Hydee, is there like a food science and like an experimental foods and some of those things?
That's what I think is difficult to achieve there. Yes, there is. We say food science and a lab is a prereq. And so we're kind of, we're open about what that might look like. Here at University of Idaho, students take a class called Scientific Principles of Food Preparation, and then a lab is experimental lab. And so students, that is offered online at U of I. So that's one good way to complete that prereq. So I guess
I do just want to say that's how I completed that requirement. I did it online during the summer. And so it was a very intense summer course, but it's very doable. And you're basically just completing the food science activities from home. So there's a lot of food preparation, and just one example was I probably made 16 different breadsticks and I tried out different seasonings and flavor combinations, and then you taste test them and then you kind of write up a little report about what happened. Another one was comparing, you were microwaving an egg in a couple different dishes and you're varying the time lengths of the microwaving. And then you make notes on what happens to the egg in the microwave. So it's going to be a lot of at-home experimentation with pictures and then writing reports. But it's doable, very fun. You get to eat a lot of the stuff you make. So
that's awesome.
I think the other issue too, Hydee, in my experience, has been biochemistry, because you are willing to accept a lower kind of intro chem. We don't allow our students into biochemistry without general chemistry and organic chemistry. And so I know I've worked with Trevor, your advisor, in the past, and we've looked at like Colorado State universities, or the student has done that year after they graduate up there at University of Idaho and then applied. So, I mean, I think it's doable. It's just a matter of we have to hodgepodge the courses. So if a student knows they want to be in dietetics, I would suggest the the 2 years here if they're here, and then the year at U of I, graduate and be applying the master's program. So you're doing the 3+2 option.
Yeah.
But we have lots of students that come to dietetics late, and I certainly want them to apply to multiple programs. I'm sure you advise the same thing because of how competitive it can be. But I mean, that's my experience with it. Do you agree?
I agree. And also one thing I wanted to point out is that we allow students to apply for our program with 15 outstanding prerequisites. And so as long as they have a plan, so they could apply in January and maybe they don't have their spring semester yet on the transcripts. So they could say, I'm applying in the spring, I'll do these prereqs. In the summer, I'll do these prereqs so that I have everything completed by the time I start in the fall. So there's flexibility. So it's not like you have to have everything done before you apply.
Okay, thank you.
So how would a student maybe get some experience of being able to make sure this is a good fit for them in the Boise area? What would be your advice for students who are interested in seeking out dietetics?
Ooh, from my personal standpoint, I reached out to a variety of different dietitians and just shadowed them. I met with a dietitian who worked at Albertsons, and I kind of got to watch her do grocery tours. And then we held like it was a little class. They made little protein balls. And it was just funny because we're sitting in the middle of Albertsons going through this little class and people are just walking around shopping. So that was kind of funny to me. And then I also job shadowed a clinical dietitian at St. Alphonsus. I found that the only thing holding me back was myself and being like, oh, they're not going to want me to watch them work. No, you just have to reach out to them. And a lot of dietitians are very willing to let you job shadow them or answer questions. So I would just reach out to as many people as you can find.
Yeah, and I suggest to my students that they conduct an informational interview. So if it feels like it's too much of a time commitment to job shadow, or the dietitian is reluctant to have you in their place of employment, you can always conduct an informational interview, several. Talk to people in different areas of dietetics. I think it's a very diverse field. I think that's one of the reasons that I was really drawn to it, that you can sort of change your career path, but be in the same career, a few times. So even though maybe one area doesn't sound interesting, you might be really invigorated by the other 5 areas of dietetics.
What were some of the areas that you actually pursued, Hydee?
In employment after graduating? Yeah, I worked as a clinical dietitian. First of all, I worked in as a consultant in long-term care. That provided a lot of flexibility. I worked in child nutrition programs at the Idaho State Department of Education, overseeing a team nutrition grant. That was very interesting. And then I moved into working as a clinical dietitian in the acute care and ambulatory care setting. So I worked at a regional hospital, and so I was able to be the inpatient dietitian a couple of days a week and the outpatient dietitian a few days a week, and that was a great fit. And then I did some consulting with my friend who's the feeding doctor. So I really have a passion for pediatrics, and I did that while I stayed home with my children. That was very flexible. And then I moved into education.
Very cool. Kendi, what do you want to do with your career in dietetics?
So it was kind of a funny thing. I swore that I would be a clinical dietitian when I got into this. And I even told Hydee, like, I'm going to be a clinical dietitian. Nothing else matters. I'm going to be a clinical dietitian, working for St. Luke's in Boise. And now I work in food and nutrition management with the Department of Correction. So it's completely different. But I absolutely love it. I get to go into the prison and audit their kitchens, which really doesn't sound fun, but it's it's very interesting to me, and interacting with inmates and kind of, I don't know, it's a very specific niche of food and nutrition management that just works for me. I don't think I would enjoy this if it was in a hospital setting, but there's a lot of health disparities that you don't think about. And I'm having fun kind of learning about mental health and nutrition and the ways that you can use nutrition to improve mental health, and then trying to figure out ways where we can apply that into the correctional setting. So you may be surprised where you end up, but for the foreseeable future, I do want to stay here with the Department of Correction, and I may end up pursuing private practice on the side just so I can still enjoy that one-on-one connection with clients. But I do need to get through probably my master's before I can divert extra time and attention to that. Yeah.
How did you end up in that position with the Department of Corrections?
So actually with the University of Idaho, one of the food and nutrition management internship opportunities was with the Department of Correction. And so that's where I did my 8-week internship. And I kind of just hit it off really well with the dietary services manager. We have very similar ideas, and she kind of just saw how excited I got working with the prison. And after graduation, she reached out to me and said, "Hey, I have a job opportunity." And I was like, I have an answer, and it's yes. So it's kind of.
That brings up a really great point, right? So generally, the students are able to find employment with the organization that they do some of their applied community or applied food and nutrition management or applied clinical dietetics.
Would you say, Kendi, that the University of Idaho prepared you well to sit for your board examinations?
Yeah, I really do. In the moment, you're kind of getting so much information that it's hard. You kind of feel like you're barely keeping your head afloat. And that's not just this program, it's any program that you would be going into. It's a lot to learn. But by the time we finished the program and I really began doubling down and studying, I was able to go back and say, oh my gosh, this is what Dr. Katie Miner was talking about. Like, oh, that's what Hydee was saying when she was telling us this. And so a lot of what we learned, I was able to dig back and kind of reapply it to what I was studying to prepare for the exam. And experiences like the theme meal and just everything that we did, it was really easy for us to apply, and for me to apply. Even now that I'm working with the prison, I still kind of go back and think, oh yeah, we learned this, and this is how I approached it, and that's how I would do it here as well. So I hope that kind of answers that.
What kind of advice would you give a student knowing what you know now?
Don't be so hard on yourself. Yeah, take time for yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. Yeah, you'll get there. It's gonna work out. You're just keep on chugging along, I guess. And then don't wait until after graduation to purchase your study materials. I kind of had a happy accident with my study materials. And as I was going through it, I was like, oh my goodness, this is the best comprehensive study guide of everything we learned. And it would have been so helpful to have as we're going through the classes. And so I would say find a study material that works well for you and maybe purchase it before graduation, because you might go and reference it as you're learning the things.
So we heard that feedback. So we went ahead and incorporated into the last semester, it's the non-thesis requirement, but since that is the exam, we give an exam. It's like a mock exam to the credentialing exam. So we require students to purchase those materials in January. So they're ready, by the time they graduate and take their credentialing exam in the summer. So thanks, Kendi.
Mhm.
Shannon? Any more questions?
Yes, actually, I do have one. So first off, what is the average age of a dietetic student? And then the second question, if they were perhaps older than that range, what advice would you give them?
So I might take it away with this one. I'm actually 28
Mhm.
and I just graduated in May. So definitely not a traditional student. I actually was one semester away from graduating with a bachelor's in biology from Boise State. And then I changed my major, did a year of prerequisites, and then went to U of I. So I'm very not the traditional right out of high school kind of student. That being said, there was one person a year older than me. We had a gal in her mid-30s. And then, of course, you're going to have the young ones. I think our youngest one was 20. And so there's a handful of them. But I feel mid-20s was actually very common.
Mhm.
So it's going to be a very diverse range of ages. And then what was the second half of your question again?
Oh, just if they are perhaps older than 20 or 30, maybe
Yes.
40, what advice would you give them?
It was a very unique experience, I think, being one of the older students. And I think that we bring a different perspective and a good perspective to the table. A lot of these students don't have the same life experience that we do. And so we can apply that into the group settings. There's going to be different group projects that we had to do. And so I enjoyed being able to offer my unique perspective. And I would just say they are younger. They need to learn and grow a little bit, but it's kind of fun. They kind of help keep you in check, I guess. But
And I might just chime in and say this year I have a class of 17. This is the last group of the coordinated program, the undergraduate program. They'll be graduating in May. And I have one student in her 50s. I have 5 students in their 40s. I actually just have 2 students that are sort of like the traditional age, in their early 20s. The rest are in their late 20s. So we're missing the 30s, but otherwise we're kind of spanning between, 20, 21. I think my youngest student just turned 21 to, 52, something like that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Kendi, where you attended Boise State University, would you be interested in doing an alumni spotlight?
Yes, please.
It does not take a lot of effort. All you have to do is answer some questions for us, and then we would post your alumni spotlight on our page. So students, if you choose, it's your choice if you want to be contacted to talk about dietetics, but would you be interested in doing that?
yeah, I think that would be good. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so I'll send you an email based off of the invite that you submitted. So it's just an easy form to fill out, and it'll give you a chance to spotlight yourself as a Boise State University of Idaho grad. And you can kind of talk it'll help us encourage students to pursue the idea of doing dietetics. And I think eatright.org does usually like a nutrition day or a national something day, and we can kind of type it based off of the month of when that is.
Okay.
National Nutrition Month is in March. Yeah.
Yeah, see, we can do it then. So if you're interested in that, I'll send you an email. I'm going to stop the recording